Okay, here we go. So we are on 1-2 linear measure today. Like I just told you guys, we're going to skip the proofs for now. We might come back to it later if we have time, but it's good news for you. We're not going to do it for a while, so you'll be fine. So what I'm going to cover right now is these symbols that you guys see on yours, and I know you don't have a ton of space. I just wrote above the symbols what they stand for. These symbols are typically helpful when we have proofs, so I know I could skip it, but I don't want to because some of them we will be using even today, and we might come back to proofs someday, so like I want to make sure it's still there, okay? So this first symbol is therefore. Again, these are your notes, so you put it wherever you want, but I just write above the symbol, I wrote the word therefore. I had space, so I think you'll be okay. This next one, IFF, is if and only if. Okay? The next one is for every. The backwards E is such that. The exclamation point is exactly one. The double arrow is an if-then statement. We'll get to those sometime, not today. I'm going to pause there because the PMQ we actually will be kind of using, so I want to make sure you guys get that. With this PMQ, do you guys see that those are all capital letters? So by now we know that that means it's a point somewhere, right? So it can be any letters at all. PMQ isn't necessarily what it has to be. It could be like ABC or something, okay? So what this means is that whatever letter is in the middle, this M for this example, it just means that M is between P and Q. M is between P and Q, like on a number line, or it could also be just on a line segment, okay? And when we get there, I'll show you what I'm talking about if that's hard for you to visualize. So again, it doesn't have to be a P and an M and a Q. It could be like an A, B, and a C, okay? And before hashtags in a math class, what did this symbol mean? Number, very good, okay? Does anyone still need this page? Okay. We good? All right. Line segment. So yesterday we talked about a line, right? It extended forever in both directions with a double-headed arrow over it. Today we're talking about a line segment. You guys probably already know this. You've used this before, right? A line segment is a section or a segment, right, of a line with two endpoints that can be measured. So the way we write it, remember yesterday we had the double-headed arrow for a line? A line segment just has a bar over it, just has a line, no arrows, right? Because it does not extend, it stops, okay? So if I have just an AB equals something, it's AB equals the length or measurement of line segment AB. What I mean by that is, like if I know that AB is like 3 inches long, I would have no line segment over it. I'll show you a little bit better on the next slide what I'm talking about, okay? Today's kind of so easy that it's hard, if that makes sense. We're just talking about line segments and equal signs. Between us of points, this is what we're skipping for now. Okay, so this is the part of the notes. I don't need to like completely black it out or anything. We might come back someday, but not today. All right? Congruent segments. What's congruent mean, basically? Equal, right? Things are equal. It's essentially what we're talking about. So congruent segments are segments with the same measure. So here's what I want to show you, okay? This says line segment AB is congruent to, that's our congruent sign right here, an equal sign with a squiggle, okay? Line segment AB is congruent to line segment CD. So what that would look like is something like this. If I do line segment AB, I would draw this if I were you, because you're maybe going to get confused later. And I'm going to draw line segment CD. So those are two line segments that look like they're probably the same length, but I don't know. I don't have a ruler on me, right? So in geometry, if they want to tell you that those two are the same, here's what they do. they put a tick mark on each of them. So do you see that line segment AB has 1 tick mark on it and CD has 1 tick mark on it? What that means is I don't know how long they are. Like I don't know if that's 1 3/4 inches or 5 feet. I have no idea how long that is, but I know they're the same because of the tick marks there. Okay? Sometimes we have more than one, so sometimes they'll give you like 2 tick marks. But if this had 1 tick mark and this had 2, they're not the same. If this had 1 tick mark and this had nothing, they're not the same, or we can't assume that they are. If neither one of them have a tick mark, I don't know how long they are, but I can't say they're the same either. We don't assume. Does that make sense to you? Okay? On this side, with an equal sign, you see how there's no line segment above it? So for this one, I'm still going to draw AB and CD to look the same. But this time, if I don't have tick marks, but I do have an equal sign, what that means is, like, they told me those were the same by like 2 inches and 2 inches or something like that. So even though these are the same concept, the left side means they're the same and the right side means they're the same. Do you guys get that they're actually kind of different? One of them means you know how long it is, and the other one just means I know they're congruent, but I don't know if that's 5 feet or like 2 1/4 inches. I have no idea. And obviously your book doesn't draw to scale all the time. Like if something's 25 feet long, they're not going to be able to draw 25 feet in your book. So that's why that's super important that you get that. Did I lose anybody here, even though it's a simple concept? You guys, you're okay? Okay. All right, we're skipping this for now. Yay. All right, so skip that. Here we go. If that's hard for you to see, you can obviously look at your paper. It's the same thing. Find the length of each segment. So I need to know how long line segment AB is. So because there's no line here, they want to know how many, and obviously that's inches, right? They want to know how many inches line segment AB is. So take a second look at it. I know rulers are kind of hard for people, but look at it and just take your best guess. How many inches does it look like AB is? 1 and how much? 3/4, yeah, or 1.75 inches. Can you guys look at that again and be like, okay, I totally get that now. I kind of forgot a ruler for 2 seconds, right? If you don't know how to use a ruler, let me know when we're done with the notes, and I'll come around and I'll show you and I'll remind you how to do it. But basically, you could count the tick marks and reduce your fraction, and that would be fine. I don't care if you do 1 3/4. I don't care if you do 1.75. I don't care if you write the double apostrophe for inches. I don't care if you write IN. I don't care if you write the word inches. I don't care. Just make sure you do it, okay? What would one little apostrophe be? What's one of them mean? Do you remember? That'd be feet, okay? So again, if you don't remember that, just write the word feet if that's what we're talking about, okay? Anybody confused about the ruler? All right, we'll work with those more later if you are. Find the length of each segment. So this time I'm looking for the length of CD. Because I know it's in inches, I'm going to say it's so many inches long. What do you guys think that is? You can shout it out. How long is CD? 3.8 what? Inches. Very good. In geometry, you're going to really have to start training your brain to write the unit. So the inches here is super important. I know in algebra you could get away with that because most of the time you didn't need it. In geometry, it's incredibly important that you remember the unit, okay? If you forgot inches on every single question on the test, am I going to give you a 0? No, but I'll probably try to encourage you to remember it, especially if you guys end up taking any standardized tests or like a placement exam or something. A lot of times, I've told them a million times I don't agree with it at all, but if you just wrote the 3.8 here, a lot of tests, not mine, but like the state tests have given you no credit because you forgot the inches. I don't agree with that, and I'm still working on it, but I'm trying to get you kind of programmed to remember it, okay? Everybody good? How did we get that, obviously? What did we do? We added, right? So we took this piece plus this piece to give us the whole piece. Okay? This one, don't say anything out loud just yet. This time we're looking for length of RS. Okay? What do you guys think that would be? 2.4 centimeters, right? How did we get that? Okay, so you could take the whole thing, the 4, and subtract the 1.6, right? Did anyone do it a different way? You can. Most people, I think, just do that, though. Super easy. Everybody's fine? Excellent. Okay. Here's where it starts to get harder. Find the value of the variable and yz if y is between x and z. So basically what that means is they didn't draw us a picture like they did on the other ones. In geometry, if there's no picture, you need to draw one. It makes it a lot easier, okay? So we're going to go ahead and draw YZ, or excuse me, wait, find YZ if Y is between X and Z. Excuse me, we have to pay attention to how we're going to draw it. Don't just draw YZ. Excuse me, I need to slow down. The first thing they asked us for was the value of the variable. What's a variable? That's a fancy word for what? What's variable mean? Do you guys remember? Letter. Find the letter. So typically it's X, but here we're going to be looking for the letter D, okay? So we're going to try to find D later, and we're going to try to find YZ. In geometry, typically you're not done after you find X. You have to go back and do something else. I know you guys are super used to that in algebra where you find an answer and you're done. So start getting used to that. So that's why I did that, so I won't forget that, oh yeah, I'm not done after this part. I need to do this part as well, okay? So let's draw our picture. They said Y is between X and Z. Did they say Y was smack dab in the middle, or they just said it was in between it like somewhere? It's not smack dab in the middle, right? It's somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and put my X and my Z, and then somewhere not in the middle, for me personally, I'm going to put the Y. If you put Y smack dab in the middle, you're not technically wrong. We don't know where it is, but I find that if you do that, you accidentally think they're congruent pieces, and they didn't tell us that. So I try not to do that, unless they say to, okay? So now we're going to label everything. XY is 11D. YZ is 9D minus 2, and the whole thing, XZ, is 5D plus 28. If you're trying to label the entire line segment, you can do it like this if you'd like to. That's what your book typically does. I don't like to draw it that way. That's hard for me, so I just do something like this. You do what works for you. The picture isn't the answer. The picture is to help you get there, so whatever you're comfortable with is what I want you to do, okay? So this whole thing is 5D plus 28. So I want you guys to just sit and think for a moment about what we maybe would do to find, obviously we have to find D first. I can't find YZ until I know what the letter D is, right? So take just a second and see if you have any idea at all of what we might do. Does anybody have any ideas? Okay, perfect. She said make an equation. Here's what I'm going to do if you weren't quite sure. I know you guys got this answer in like 2.5 seconds, right? So let's look at it this way. Isn't this piece plus this piece, which is what you guys did, equivalent to the whole thing, which is what you found? Or we could go back to this one. We could have called this an X. Couldn't I, if it wasn't this easy, couldn't I have said X plus 1.6 is equivalent to the whole thing 4? So those were easy. We didn't have to think about it that way. You guys just subtracted the 1.6 on your own because it was just numbers. But for this one, aren't I going to say that this piece plus this piece is the same as this one, right? So we're going to write our own equation. 11D plus 9D minus 2 is equal to 5D plus 28. So the first part of this question was geometry. Now it's just algebra 1, isn't it? Right? So I want you guys to try to find D on your own. Let's see what you remember, okay? Try to find D on your own. And if you get it right, you can move on. If you don't, then hang on and I'll help you remember how to find the letter D, okay? Solve for D. What'd you get? We should be getting 2. If you got 2, wonderful. If you didn't, pause for a second, and I'm going to do it for you so you can see how you should do it. The reason when we get to algebra questions like this, I have you try it first is because there's so many different ways to get to this answer. I'd rather you try your way and hopefully maybe get it right than watch me do one way that maybe you wouldn't have done. Okay? So if you got D as 2, you're good. If you didn't, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm not going to make you ask. I'm just going to do it, okay? Anytime I solve an equation like this, I try to combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign first. So obviously 11D and 9D are like terms. So what is 11D plus 9 more? 20D. I still have the minus 2. The 5D plus 28 just comes down as well. Here's where you guys could have done whatever you wanted to do. You could have subtracted 20D. You could have added 2. You could have subtracted 5D. You could have subtracted 28. You guys all could have done any of those and it would have probably still been right. Here's how I prefer to do it. I prefer to get the variable together first, the letter, and I prefer it to be positive. Most people work better with positives than negatives. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 5D from both sides. right? So I would end up with 15D minus 2 equals 28. But maybe you didn't do that and you still got it right, and that's fine, right? If you, at this stage in your mathematical career, if you don't want to write minus 5D, and you get here and you're fine and you're not confused, I'm okay with that. I'm still showing work, I'm just not showing every little thing. So that's okay now, okay? But if you're getting it wrong, then maybe start writing it down, okay? From here, I only have one choice. What do I have to do? I have to add that 2, right? So 15D equals 30. Again, I didn't show plus 2 because I feel comfortable with that, but if you want to, you probably should for like a couple weeks, okay? And now what do? Divide by 15, and I get 2. That was one of the answers they wanted, so I'm going to put it here, or I'm going to circle it so my teacher finds it really easily, right? Is that all they wanted? No, right? In geometry, a lot of times they want a second answer, and you guys are so used to getting one and moving on, you have to really pay attention to that. So they wanted the variable, check, and they wanted yz. So yz is 9d minus 2. How am I going to figure that out? Plug it in. What's a fancy word for plug it in? Substitute, right? Same thing. So I'm going to find 9 times, what do we say d was? 2 minus 2. What is 9 times 2? 18 minus 2 is 16. So I'm either going to put it here and circle the whole thing, or I'm going to make sure I label yz equals 16. If you just had a 16 and circled it, I really truly don't know what you were finding. So you need to make sure you labeled it. I can't label it inches or anything because they didn't give me that. If you really wanted to be fancy, you could write the word units because we don't know what they wanted. I don't make you do that. If they didn't write inches, then you're fine. Okay? Did I lose anybody at all? All right. On the back side is this, which we're skipping. Okay? So you don't have to look at that. Again, don't scribble it out or whatever. And then if you guys look at the bottom of your notes, it says like do your assignment sheet, whatever, and it says add, blah, blah, blah. We're not doing that because we didn't do that. So you're just going to focus on the assignment sheet, and you're going to stop at like, I think it says number 44, and just the book work. We're not doing the additional proofs because we didn't cover that in class. Last chance. Does anybody need anything, have any questions? Need me to go back to a screen? Okay, give me a second to stop this.